So thanks everyone for joining. This is our February user group meeting. I know it's been a while since we've been able to meet. We are graced by 4 speakers from Microsoft today who are going to talk about Microsoft 365, and I have on good authority that they've got some pretty awesome new things coming. So just 1 minute of housekeeping kind of down the bottom of the slide there. It is recorded, so if you have any problem with your voice being recorded or anything like that, just want to give you the heads up. If you have questions along the way, go ahead and throw your hand up. I know it's kind of small, but we're expecting quite a few more people, so make it a little bit easier than everybody trying to talk at once. There's a few moderators on the call on top of Microsoft who can unmute your line and let you answer questions. And this is meant to be super interactive, and that's what the Microsoft guys want as well. So they want to hear your questions. They want your feedback on some of the things along the way. And if you don't want your voice recorded, or you just don't feel like talking to a big group of people, except for the 4 Microsoft people, you have to talk. You can go ahead and throw it in chat, and either myself or somebody else will read it out. We can go from there. When we post the recording, we do clip out everybody's faces and initials and names and everything, and we'll also exclude the chat from that, so you can kind of maintain your anonymity. And if you have questions along the way, throw them in chat just about the WinAdmins or anything else, and one of the members of the staff there will try and get to it. And with that, Matt, I turn it completely over to you and your team, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
All right, great. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Let me share this out here. All right, should be coming up on your screen here. Welcome to the WinAdmins Ask Us Anything, hosted by the M365 Apps Rangers, which is us. We'll get into who we are and what we do in just a second. But first, what's in it for you today? Why should you show up and attend our session? Well, we're going to teach you all about the latest features that are released in the Apps Admin Center. Hopefully you are familiar with what that is and kind of what it does. If not, we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but it's at config.office.com. You can log in with admin credentials and play around in there. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's on the roadmap, what's soon to come out, and some things that we're discussing to release later on. And the biggest thing is how to reduce admin effort and improve your product quality, how to make your lives easier. All of the tools that our team has been building and have built already has been from direct feedback from customers on how to make managing your M365 apps experience easier. Different ways to automate things, have more transparency to your end users, all those sorts of things. So our goal is to make your life way easier. And then when we're done with that, we want to answer all of your questions. It is an AMA, so hopefully you guys have lots of good questions for us, and we're happy to answer. And we would like to see you guys enabling inventory on config.office.com and try it out. We'll go into what it is and how it works, but it makes no changes to the environment. It signals you've already sent to Microsoft if you have optional data turned on. We're just going to turn around and send it right back to you, is all it really is. So it's just a net value add. So who are the Rangers and what do they do? So the 4 Rangers are the gentleman at the top, Martin Nothnagel, Matt Filipenko, Bob Clements, and that handsome devil in the end is myself, Eric Wayne. We work with customers day in and day out, managing and securing the M365 apps. We've all been working with customers for many years, just in this product space, working directly with the product groups. So we're very much aware of what both the customer side and what our engineering folks would like to see and how the vision for this product. You can follow us on LinkedIn, or we do have a YouTube channel. Feel free to hit the link. And what we can answer questions about is deployment with MECM or SCCM, Intune, cloud types of deployments for the M365 apps, management of those apps, how we service them, how we get updates to them, changing channels, changing 64-32-bitness, things like that. Delivery optimization, how to get that set up so that Office can take advantage of Windows delivery optimization to lessen your network loads, things like that. And licensing and activation in terms of shared computer activation, licensing devices, licensing users, all that subscription-based type things. Just want to call out the things that we can't help you with are Teams. Specifically, I know Teams is bundled with the M365 apps, but technically that is a different team entirely within Microsoft. Same with OneDrive. And then any in-app features, if you're looking for how to do certain things inside Excel, certain formulas or things like that, we're not the team. We're the manageability team. We handle the Office products, not the individual apps. So just want to call that out. And let's look at the agenda. So we are going to recap from our last AMA. Hopefully some of you had a chance to attend that. It was a while back. So we're going to recap what we covered then. We're going to talk about some new features on deploying updates with a safety net, including features of rollback and skip. And we're going to look at your security score. How secure is your environment? How many holes are there, or how many inroads are there for the bad guys to get into your environment, and how can we fix that? And then we're going to talk about what's coming up next, wave customization and excluding devices, and of course, all of your questions. So that's what we have on deck for you today. So we will get right into it. I'll turn it over to Matt here.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. I will take control here really quick. All right. So as Eric said before, the M365 Apps Admin Center, or config.office.com, I threw a link in the chat to the Admin Center. From a login perspective, I threw the roles in there as well. The global admin, security admin, or Office Apps admin have access to that Admin Center. There's a ton of really good tools in there. I'm hoping most of you have logged in, used it, or even while you're on this call, feel free to jump in and then find us on WinAdmins Discord group as well to chat with us if you have questions on it. If it's not working correctly, that's directly our tool, so we can take your feedback directly to the devs and hopefully get it implemented. So to kind of kick it off, if you're not familiar with it, the Office Apps Admin Center, M365 Apps Admin Center, it's tenant level connected devices. So any device signing into your M365 apps that are on-prem, these are the click-to-run versions, not the volume license versions that are out there. Although we do have some interoptions that can happen, like GPOs and different things that can convert VL over to the subscription. So if you're looking at doing a deployment or something like that, hit us up on the chat as well. For the first one, it's inventory. With inventory, the main thing here is Office must be at version 2008. The version number, if you go to File and Account, and on the backstage, there is a Office version on there. If that requirement's been met and you have a direct line of sight to our endpoints, as well as signing in and activating Office with an organization account for that tenant, that device will move up into inventory. You'll be able to see a ton of great details about it, like logged in user, the bitness, the Office version, the actual build number. Under Apps Health, it's a really great place. Like Eric said before, it uses the inventory uses Serviceability Manager, which is a local client that we shipped in version 2008 or just before that. The Apps Health dashboard uses the diagnostic data. It's like an exhaust that comes off the apps. It's on by default unless you have specified through a policy to not send it. If that's the case, then the Apps Health dashboard will not show a lot of really good details for you. But in general, it will show you boot times and crash and advisories on next steps and things like that. We're also working on some new features around add-in health to really help dive deep into the add-in conversation. Next up is the servicing profile. Servicing profile is an automated way to send your updates to those clients. A lot of folks on here, based on that last call we had, I threw some polls in there. You guys were using Configuration Manager or Intune. Specifically, if you're using Intune and you're not using profiles, there's a lot of really cool control in there that we can dive into. So I'd urge you to, once we get to the AMA part at the end, throw your questions in there and start asking about how you can turn on servicing profiles or use cases for your environment. The last one, but not least, is the Office Cloud Policy Service, or OCPS. It is a great feature that will allow you to deploy. Right now, it is user-based policies, but we are looking at doing device policies. Right now, with the user-based policies, you deploy them to a group in an Azure AD group or that user, and then as it goes out to those groups, when the user signs in, the policies will come down. So it's a pretty sweet tool. I've validated it and tested it. Back when we used to travel before coronavirus, I went out to a Hilton hotel in Redmond and signed into their desktop in the lobby. watch the policies drop. I did like the themes and the colors so I could physically see them change on the client. So it was a pretty cool test, but it works great to make sure that your policies are following your users. Next up, the benefits around the monthly enterprise channel. The monthly enterprise channel is a big requirement for servicing profiles. So if you're not aware of the monthly enterprise channel, there's some great details on here as well. Starting from the bottom up, there's a total economic impact video that was done. That's a YouTube video you can click out to and watch it. It was done by the Forrester study. The total economic impact PDF is linked second from the bottom. That one will bring you information about how awesome the apps are, and monthly enterprise channel has been for other enterprises. There's a use case in almost every organization. So I'd urge you to unmute, chat with us, talk to us, and let us know your feedback and concerns about monthly enterprise channel. From a reduced admin effort, a lot of these other things in here, the other bullets are basically focusing on like the benefits of MEC. There's a lot of benefits around it. One of the biggest ones that we've seen with servicing profile is on that right-hand side. It's a screenshot showing that close to 94% of compliance on devices using servicing profiles and devices using config manager were just around 67%. And it's a month-over-month flow. So it's I know a lot of organizations want to hit at least 80%. Some that I talk to, I mean, if they can get to 97, 98, I mean, they're having a party. So encourage you to ask questions on that as well at the end. It's a ton of great details. From a key findings perspective, this is from the TEI study, just some short call outs about the monthly enterprise channel and adopting this more modern kind of flow. The help desk has saved 70%. There's just a ton of benefits. I won't kind of read them off. I mean, you'll see them there on the slide as well as on the recording. But the key here is that it works. It's been proven. We've got millions of endpoints on this channel already, and our Ranger team is focused on adding more. And that's basically, we want to bring the best of both worlds. You've got current channel, which is really fast. You've got semi-annual channel, which is really slow. And we're going to meet you in the middle on monthly enterprise channel and get you the features and security updates, and as well as hot fixes that you might be missing. And this next one is kicking it over to Martin. So I'll mute here, but feel free to ask away at the end.
Thanks, Matt. I will touch on a few new features. So I have a few slides in the slide deck, but I will actually switch over into my demo environment to kind of show you a few new features that we shipped. So one we shipped actually last week, and the other one kind of 2 weeks ago. So they're pretty new and hot off the press. So let me share my screen, and then we can walk through. So I'm logged into my Apps Admin Center, my demo environment, with a very low number of devices attached, but it is a real environment, no fake data here. And as Matt mentioned before, one of the benefits of the Apps Admin Center is when you compare to SCCM or with Intune, it's specifically built for the Office applications. That's why we can give you a specific or more specific reports on, for example, different channels or different builds. So, for example, in SCCM, to get a report by channel is very complex. So you can do this with right query and having the channel identifier correctly in your query. Then you can also split devices by channel. But in this inventory, it's built in and it just works. There's no backend infrastructure that you need, no agent, no nothing. So you get this right from the get-go. The one of the new features I would like to highlight is on the security update status page. And this is where we are trying to do more than just showing you, oh, you have 25,000 devices connected to your tenant, which is potentially a mix of managed and unmanaged devices. And they have this version of Office installed on it. We want to take it one step further, which is how secure are those installations? So if we just look at the security status, are all the devices connected to my tenant running the latest version? The SAS or security update status page gives you a quick overview. So I only manage 7 devices, and it appears like I do a bad job at doing this because less than 30% are running the latest updates. So some are behind, and I can always drill in. So I can click and then give me the list of all the devices which are missing updates. So I can do this very easily, but also get a true overview. The Apps Admin Center is not limited by something like an Active Directory or Azure Active Directory. So when we look at SCCM, basically I can only see devices which are in my Active Directory and have an SCCM agent on. In the Apps Admin Center, I can see all devices or all M365 installations which are connected to my tenant, or they are able to access the services in my tenant. They can access the corp data in my tenant. And maybe there is a good number of personal bring your own devices which are accessing my tenant. And now I get a full picture of all the devices connected, not just my managed ones. So I get this, and the new feature is the breakdown. I can break, or I can see a drill down to the actual level of how many security or known security holds do my devices have when it comes to Office. So everything I'm saying is limited to the M365 apps. So it checks all the devices that I have, or the inventory data, and does the calculation like, okay, some devices are not on the latest build. How many security issues are in Martin's demo environment? And these are 22. I know that this feature is currently not enabled for all tenants, but it should be within the next week or so. So we're very close to releasing this one. And if you're managing a large organization, don't freak out. I have seen customers with kind of 4-digit, 5-digit, even 6-digit numbers here, because that's potentially the first time the admins can see, oh shoot, we have 120,000 known security holds in our Office landscape because we have a huge number of devices maybe being 4, 5, 6 months behind. And again, I can always drill down and get the list of the actual devices which are causing the issues here, or are putting my tenant at risk. So that's, from my perspective, a very neat, deep, quick insight into what is going on. Matt mentioned AppsHealth. We have a new tab, Add in Health. So again, it's about giving you more insights on a new level. So we go from, hey, which devices are connected to my tenant, beyond are these devices are actually secure, or the M365 app installation secure. The regular AppsHealth then gives you an insight, how are my applications doing? How often are they crashing? What is the average boot time for them? So I can drill down into my applications and see, for example, the crash rate or the boot time, or how long it takes to open the file. And what we are currently slowly rolling out is also add-in crash information. So for my demo tenant, there's not enough data, but I can then drill down what is actually causing my devices or my M365 apps to crash. Maybe it's a specific add-in. Maybe I have an outdated version, so that's maybe something I can fix. Roll out a newer version and then use this feature to see, does this help? Does the crash rate go down, or does the load time go down? So my users can actually focus on working and not kind of seeing every time the infamous screen that the application has crashed and we are collecting some information. So that's some new features around getting deeper insights, what's going on in your environment, and then what can you do about this? We touched on this last time. We have servicing profile. So basically update controlled, cloud controlled updates. So I can configure which devices in my environment should get updates directly from the tenant. And I, as an admin, can see the status. So in my tenant, 5 devices are currently targeted by the servicing profile. 2 devices already received an update, so they are complete, and others are still offline, so they have not received the update yet. What we have released is a feature called rollback. So when we talk about the monthly enterprise channel, so every month you get new features, which is kind of a low number, maybe 1, 2, 3 features. It's not like 10 new features every month. But it could be that a new version is causing an issue. And then you potentially would like to roll back. So maybe one of my devices, so for example, the Win10 Enterprise Berlin 1 machine, which you can see has completed the update to the latest version, which is 21.12. So that's the version this device is currently on. And I can now select the device. I can, of course, select multiple devices and decide, do I want to roll it back one version? So, for example, the version which was released last month, so that's the version the device really is coming from, or the same version from last month, but with the security patches from this month. So these are the 2 versions. That's the not recommended one, not supported one, is the true release from last month. And then we have another with the same feature set with just security updates from the current month. So hopefully none of these security fixes was causing the issue. Maybe it's a change in the feature or somewhere else. So I go with this version. I click rollback, and then it takes a few seconds for the backend to save the information. And then the backend knows, so okay, rollback is scheduled. And now I can see that this device, Berlin 1, the update status is rolling back. So the next time the device is online, it will get an information directly from the tenant. You're supposed to do an update into the other direction. I'm saying an update into the other direction because that's the user experience. For the user, it's exactly the same experience like an update. It is not an uninstall, reinstall. We are just updating backwards. So it will hopefully apply in the background. If not, it will notify the user, so the user can apply the update. And once this is done, the admin can see the status switching to rollback. So I know this device now is sitting on the older version, and we call this feature rollback and skip because the device will sit on this older version until the next one is released. And then automatically this device will be back in the swing and will receive the usual notification from the tenant that it should perform an update. And so in March, it will directly update to the then current version in March. I can cancel a rollback. So then the device would go to the version which is now available. But if I'm fine with this, I just leave it as it is, and next month all the devices will be back in the swing. So that was a highly requested feature for the case if the pace or cadence going forward is breaking something. You have an easy way to go backwards, or one step at least back, because it is a pain to roll back one version when you're using SCCM or you're using Intune. You can do kind of XML magic or changing reg keys and running command lines. That's all gone if you use servicing profiles. It's just 4 or 5 clicks and your devices are rolling back. So this is the overview of the new features that we have released. The more in-depth security update status information, deeper inside an app itself, you can now drill down into the add-in level and see what is actually causing your devices for crashing or being slow. And if you're keen to use or you're already using a servicing profile, now you have an additional safety net by being able to roll back one version if something goes wrong. So I will stop sharing here and hand over to Bob, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Let me present out here. Slide transitions. This is the boring part, sorry. Okay, should have a deck. And I'm gonna skip forward here because we went through all of this and we're jumping into the cool stuff, the upcoming features. So some great chat going on. Trying to answer questions. Before I jump into this, is there anybody that wanted to come off mute with any of the stuff that's already been talked about? Anything you want clarified? Just pause for a second. Okay. We're going to have open AMA here pretty shortly anyways, but I just wanted to give a moment. So really quick, some upcoming features, all the great stuff in the Apps Admin Center that we've talked about. And if you've been a part of this, it sounds like a few of you in the chat already actively using or have played around with the Apps Admin Center. So these are things that we're working on that aren't in the Admin Center yet. And some of them are in response to some of the questions you've already asked. So first off, a new UI. If you've gone through setting up a servicing profile or then going back and making changes to your servicing profile, we oftentimes get feedback that it's not very intuitive on how the layout is set up. Like, in fact, we added our Start Small feature where you could start targeting groups, and we've had customers end up with confusion on, do I have a group targeted? Do I not? If I remove the group, does it now default to all my devices? Like, and then how do the additional filters get applied? So we have the team's redone that entire UI. It's not available currently. It's kind of in an internal preview. We're looking at it, and I think that's going to be the next major thing that gets pushed out. But this will make it very clean. Unfortunately, I don't have a mock-up I can share on this call due to the nature of the call, but essentially there will be sliders that everything will be kind of compressed. The top level will just be all devices, and then you can work your way down the list by turning on a knob. It'll give you additional options. If you want to go deeper, you hit another knob, more options come out. A little bit more intuitive. My experience, it's been great. As part of that, we're also adding in a new control on that page that'll allow you to exclude devices using Azure AD groups. So today you can already target Azure AD groups, right? If you want to be very specific on the devices or users that you're going to target with the profile. This slider will then allow you to exclude a group of users or devices. So common scenario we get is, I already have a group that I've done mass licensing for M365 apps. I just want to target all my M365 app users with that group. Very quick and easy. It's already exists in the environment. But I do have some VIPs that I do not want this to target, and I'd like to exclude them. So instead of having to kind of create a whole new different group structure to accommodate the fact that we don't have exclusions, that will be addressed once this lands. Those are kind of the two, I think, quickest next big revs. We just did roll back and skip, like Martin walked through. These two items are very much on the menu to come up soon. And then the next one is wave customization, another really big ask that we've gotten. So just really quick, if you're not familiar with waves, when you're in a servicing profile, we kind of quote unquote handle the wave for you. We do a waved rollout. So it's not like everything in the profile on Patch Tuesday, we blast with updates. Instead, we kind of have a background algorithm that slices up all of the devices targeted by that profile and streams the update. We call them update intents, or essentially changing the target version on the devices to the next available update version. And today it's a very simplified approach. It's like we have 4 waves, 30%, 30%, 30%, and then 10% plus or minus whatever didn't already get tackled in the environment. So within 4 days, over those 4 waves, the intents are going to land out into the environment to update. The actual updates will install given your deadline settings and things like that. But the feedback we've gotten is like, we obviously, a lot of customers are used to a ring approach with Windows updates. They have different phases and things, so they want to control that, which we totally get that as well. So wave customization will give you the ability to target, basically configure your waves, and you can continue to use the automated approach if you want. If you don't want to do that, you can say, okay, wave 1, I'm targeting at this Azure AD group, and then I want to give a 3-day buffer before the wave 2 goes, and wave 2 is going to be targeted at this Azure AD group. And the max right now is 4 waves. I think we're probably going to stick to that formula, but it'll kind of open up the menu, so to speak, so you have additional control there. So these are some really awesome new items. I know there's questions, it already came up in the chat once of, can I start configuring other channels? I want to support current channel. I want to support semi-annual enterprise channel. That's another big ask. They actually were very high in the priority list. We ended up bumping them down simply because as we look at the picture, there were still some things like wave customization and group exclusions, which are fundamental core components that really do need to be in the product to have a good working patching experience with the service, we believe. And kind of just based on customer feedback. So we wanted to get these all dialed in, and then that way, when we're ready to stand up a new profile for current channel, ideally it's kind of a lift and shift with very little effort having to be dropped in there, minus the speed at which those updates come out would be a little bit different behavior. But so it'll be coming. These, I think, is safe to say, likely this calendar year you'll see smatterings of this stuff come out in public preview. Additional channel support I currently would not expect to see until following calendar year. All obviously things can change, but if you had to ask me today. So that's the stuff that's coming up next. And then I think we're just jumping right into the Q&A. So at this point, anybody that wants to come off mute, please feel free. Anything in chat. And then Rangers, if you guys have been answering questions or want to discuss any of the questions that were already brought up in chat, I know there was some questions about moving from volume licensing. I don't know if we want to delve into that at all.
So I know there was a bunch of chat going on in the last half hour in the chat, and I started to try and keep up with what the questions answered versus not answered were, and I kind of lost sight of it. So if you have an unanswered one that you don't want to ask vocally, if you can just repost it in the chat, one of us will read it out. But we do have our first audio question. So I'm going to unmute Jeffrey. And you should be able to unmute yourself now, Jeffrey, if you want to ask a question.
Hey, yeah, so my question was on the volume licensing. I'd love to delve into that if that's possible, if you have time at all. Wondering how you would push out. I'm looking at one of the documents that was posted. I've certainly tried the GPO on a system before, and it did not actually work. So that's why I was wondering if it was in Intune. But the pushing out of an XML, is that going to completely uninstall and reinstall their Office? I guess it's...
Yeah, so I can take that one really quick. I know I was chatting with you back and forth. So from a device perspective, if you push Martin's blog that I threw in the chat, that covers a new feature that we released called Match Installed. And what's pretty cool about it is it will, from a config man side or even from Intune side, we can do it through Enter XML Data, one of the options instead of the configuration designer. You can send down just the settings. So if it's from config man, you're pushing the ODT and the XML, and with match installed being inside the XML, it will look at the local Office install, and then it will add project or Visio or whichever one you want to add. And then based on the one that you want to add, it will put it down based on the product ID. So if what you're looking for is trying to use the 2016 volume license version still, that can be done, but the product ID is called Project Pro X Volume. And what that does is it installs click to run based source and activates against your KMS host or Mac or whatever you did in the past. But yeah, there's a couple ways to get it done, and I'd be more than happy. You can either send me an email or find me on Discord and send me a direct message, or better yet, we can spin up a chat on the M365 on-prem so that others can see it and learn from it as well.
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The next one in the chat is for you, Martin, around users needing local admin rights to give control over the installed channels. If you want to maybe tackle that one, you know.
Yep, I can take this one. So in the chat, there was a question around can we use OCPS, so the Office Cloud Policy Service, to switch the update channel. So in kind of an on-prem world, you would use SCCM to instruct the device to go to a different channel or use group policies. When we look at just the Apps Admin Center, or the setting for the update channel is a device policy or a device setting, and the OCPS does not support device settings. The vast majority of policies we have in the Office space, so kind of roughly 2,000 compared to 200. So the vast majority are user policies. So they apply to the user object, not to the device itself or to the machine object. And this piece is missing, and the update channel is a device policy or machine policy when you're sticking to kind of the group policy terms. That's why, as of today, we can't use OCPS to directly craft a policy which is switching a device to monthly enterprise channel or to a different channel, assign it to devices, and they will flip. Doesn't work with OCPS. So question was, or how can we do this? Of course, you can use servicing profile. Servicing profile will flip devices to monthly enterprise channel. So whatever set of devices you're targeting, the outcome is always a monthly enterprise channel device. So if this is what you want, then servicing profile just works. If you want to kind of go back and forth or allow users to go to other channels, we only have the option when we are taking SCCM group policies and Intune out of the picture to use the OCPS policy to allow the user to select the channel. But one of the requirements, this was correctly called out in the chat, one of the requirements is the user must be local admin. So we can set the policy on the user level so that the UI is available in the Office application. But if the user tries to change the assigned channel and save the information, then the user has to be local admin, so the information can be written to the registry and the click-to-run engine can perform the channel change. So yes, it's a limitation that we have as of today. I know the OCPS team is working on lifting the limitation, but we don't have a timeline for this. All right. So I'm checking if we have other questions from the chat. Or my colleagues, have you spotted a question you would like to take?
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones coming in. So yeah, let me jump in. Stephanie's asking, so for inventory and health, would it be possible to only scope for the devices that are managed with the servicing profile? Asking because it shows non-managed. Yeah, so currently security update status is pretty much data driven off of inventory, and we do not have any filters in play. So if you have unmanaged devices that are showing up in inventory, or other devices that you may not, you want to filter out. Currently, we don't have an option for that. My only, I would say, suggested workaround is since we last met, the export feature has been completely unlocked. So you can go to your inventory page and export the entire inventory list. And at that point, you could go in there and unfortunately, there's nothing to dictate which devices are managed or unmanaged, but you can filter the columns and manipulate the data a bit to help. Like if you have a standard naming convention or something like that on your devices, you might be able to correlate, corporate devices and then those that are on a specific build version. This is an item that we have recorded as a feature request. It has been mentioned previously as well. So I don't know, down the road, hopefully, because it'd be great equally. We also have, in kind of the same context, requests to have additional export capabilities added to security update status and the servicing profile page. So those are some other items on the backlog, but have been raised in case those are some follow-ups.
Bob, I would like to add one aspect to this conversation. So I don't know the full background, but something I would like to call out is you see all the devices which are connected to your tenant, which means there's an M365 app installation on these devices which was activated by your tenant, and the user from your tenant is signed into these applications, because these are the two conditions which must be met for a device to be shown in inventory and so also be shown on security update status page. So yes, I understand there are certain scenarios where you would like to split between managed and unmanaged ones. But from a security perspective, so when we talk about the security update status page, from a security perspective, at the end, it does not matter if it's a corp device or a personal device. It is a device which can access my tenant, can access my data, and can use the user object to access all the services which are available to this user in my tenant. So filtering down, yes, I see certain scenarios, but at the other hand, I can't ignore unmanaged devices because they are a potential security threat to my tenant. And so I might want to consider using servicing profiles to force these devices to run the latest version of Office. So there's kind of two schools. One is I'm only responsible for these ones, so I want to see these. The other is if you look from a tenant level, also the unmanaged ones are a potential risk for your tenant, so you should not ignore them. So that's something I wanted to add.
I wanted to jump in here real quick, and Steve posted a question. If channel selection was previously configured via GPO, Intune, Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager, or will a servicing profile override those, or do they need to be removed before servicing profile takes effect? It's a great question. I will let I'll take a swing at it, and then if any one of the other Rangers want to add on. So by default, basically out of the gate, to answer your question, it will be taken over. When you enable servicing profiles, what it does is it enables cloud policy, and cloud policy creates a registry hive that will win against local AD GPOs, the Intune GPOs, and then it will also take over from the config manager side, which drops the Office Management COM reg key or policy if you have it a client setting. Both of those will take over. So at the end of the day, if you turn servicing profiles on and you have it set for monthly enterprise channel, those monthly enterprise channel devices will be moved over to the profile, and there's no admin effort needed to take care of stuff.
Yeah, I'll chime in too, kind of adding on that, more specific to the config manager piece. The only thing with if you have an SEC managed environment, you turn servicing profiles on, like Matt mentioned, it's just going to work. Servicing profiles will start taking care of it. On the config manager side, while you don't need to decommission Office Management COM, I'd say the minimum thing you probably want to do is at least stop targeting those devices with updates from the SCCM side, merely because they're going to start showing up as failures in SCCM because it no longer has visibility that it had prior. So you'll likely see a bunch of errors in your reporting, and that can cause some confusion. So yeah, keep that in mind.
Looks like we have one on voice. So I'm going to go ahead and allow the mic. And if you want to come off mute and talk to the Rangers.
Thank you. I just have a quick question on the XML files with regards to the in an upgrade scenario. So, you guys have some nice templates and the standard configuration download. So in the beginning, it was helpful to even understand how to actually configure it. So so we in our environment, so we have all kind of versions for Visio starting. Some are still stuck at 2010. Professional, some office, the project, the same thing, standard versus professional. Now, I've seen the supported product IDs in one of the documentation that supports that is supported for click-to-run versions. You have a huge list there, but when you download one of your standard configurations, I would see that I can see that there is a MSI condition that you put in for the let's say if you want to only install Visio Pro retail, if you have Pro installed, for instance, right, of the previous version of the MSI. I see that you have in the condition what the naming that you put in is Viz Pro or Viz Pro R, for instance, but that's not the ID that you would see inside the documentation. So I'm kind of confused where if I have, let's say, a Visio Pro 2010 on a client machine, if I have to put a condition for this one, what would that be? Just Viz Pro, be okay?
Yeah, so I can take that one really quick. On our remove MSI documentation, which I'll drop in the chat here as well.
Yeah.
But remove MSI, that has a set of product codes. The product ID is the Project Pro X Volume, Visio Pro X Volume, like those are the product IDs. The product codes, those come from the old MSI products. And essentially with the 2010 one, that's the ones that you want to lay down into that MSI condition. And the way that MSI condition works, let's say you have an MSI condition set, it will, if as click to run goes through, it's going to remove Office MSI and lay down click to run Office, and then it's going to move on to Project or Visio if those are specified in your XML, and it will look for the product codes that you've specified as an MSI condition. If it finds one of them, it will lay down the product ID that you specified on the left side, and if it doesn't find one of those product codes, it'll keep moving. So it's a nice benefit because prior to this, admins had to have.
So yeah, let me
XMLs.
stop you right there. So I had a dynamic PowerShell XML thrower that I created, which basically looks at the code. I throw the XML on the fly and then create a XML depending on what I find, and then use that as a config XML in the end. And so I have like 4 XMLs that in the template and a full splat on the PowerShell script to basically throw out the XML file. So it was kind of difficult until I just saw this today. So
wow.
I was just looking at the product. So I don't know. I never found this information in any documentation where you guys have the deploy or configuration. I think it's more of it is you guys are making a lot of things, but I think as a small admin, from my look at it, the way is that if we don't attend, for instance, webinars like this every month, for instance, or if you don't ask these questions, we're not actually hearing about these cool things that you guys are doing. So that's where I don't know. It's kind of a gap that is between you guys and us, right? So when we started doing this, I've never seen this MSI condition options to begin with. So
that's really good feedback. I thank you for that. And we'll do better. What I would recommend doing is the Microsoft 365 blog that is out there on Tech Community. We're posting there pretty predominantly now. Like that's our go-to place to post our blogs. And then in addition, the office deployment section, I dropped in earlier an overview of the Apps Admin Center. And in there on that left-hand side, there's a table of contents, and there's a section in there called Notes from the Field. And a bunch of those articles are written by like Martin and other rangers. Like we have all the rangers are submitting content there. From outside of like the Tech Community, Microsoft 365 blog, and our docs articles, we have all of us are joining into the Discord WinAdmins, and then like my morning is I get my espresso from my espresso machine and I turn on, I turn on Discord and I look at M365 on-prem, Intune, and ConfigMan each day to kind of sniff out and see if there's any Office stuff in there for me. But yeah, if you have questions, just reach out to one of us on the WinAdmins as well, and we'll share updates. We'll try to get a hold of Chris as well here and make sure that at least every 90 days or maybe once a quarter, we're coming in and doing an AMA and just bringing out all the new features and new advancements.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thank you so much for explaining. We kind of get lost. So I was, for instance, in this case, you're looking at the ID, right? And then you're searching for the ID, but forgetting the fact that MSI is completely different beast, right? So see, you're lost there. So I was lost there. So that's so. Anyways, thank you again. Do you have that MSI IDs blog or somewhere? Is that also in somewhere?
Yep, I will.
Did you already
I'll
put it in
drop
there? Okay.
I'll drop it in the chat right after this.
Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate it.
You bet, absolutely. And feel free to reach out on Discord if you want to get
Sure thing.
direct questions. Hit me up.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Just kind of scrolling up some of the questions that we got up above. So Stephanie also asked, how long does a device need to be online? I think Martin did a good earlier explanation. So typically the devices are going to be checking in every 90 minutes to do a sync. And then when an update task operation goes in, we speed that interval up. So initial intents will start coming through, and then less than 10 minutes, you'll start seeing activity on the devices. So And then the other question here, how can we force the update on unmanaged devices if we use a group to scope which devices are managed with the servicing profile? So when you're targeting with the servicing profile, if you're doing a group that's just devices, you're kind of limiting yourself in that capacity because those devices are likely managed and domain joined or Azure AD joined. Really, you would want to be targeting a group of users to ensure that those unmanaged devices are getting picked up. That way, if Joe Thompson is signed in to his work PC and his home unmanaged PC, those will both show up in inventory because we see license activations from both, and therefore would also be scoped into a servicing profile as long as you're targeting his user as opposed to just the device. All right. And then kind of jumping down to the questions, I don't see anyone on the asking to come off of mute. I think Eric answered Jeffrey's question about the Office 2019. Was there any follow-up there, or did that cover what you were looking for? Trying to mark these off as we get through them.
Looks like we had 6 minutes too. Chris, we had was it a full hour?
Yep, we have a full hour.
Sweet.
It looks like 2 at the bottom there. Stephanie was asking. I don't think we covered this one above. When a failed upgrade will be retried if an update fails on a device.
Oh yeah, so if you're targeting with a servicing profile, when will a failed upgrade on a device be retried? I mean, it's going to be less than 90 minutes. I don't know the exact interval. I don't know if one of the other Rangers knows So maybe it's having a download failure from the CDN or something. We get the error back in the portal when the next retry goes in.
Yeah, any HTTP transport errors. So when you do get an error inside servicing profiles, there's an issues tab, and then on the issues tab, it shows the failed updates. What we're doing is we're trying to evolve that. So if you're using it now on your tenant, please hit us up directly, and we'd love to get you connected with the program manager that owns servicing profiles and that page, so that if those error messages are just staying and not flushing out from patch Tuesday to patch Tuesday, that's kind of the purpose there. Is if it's actionable, we want to serve it to you. If it's not actionable, meaning like if it's a HTTP transport error, those will be retried all the time. So like the next time it checks for updates, it's going to fetch it, and it might win because it has a line of sight to the update now, or before the internet cut out, or they shut down the machine. I mean, multiple reasons could happen that they could have a failed update. But yeah, there's on that issues tab, it'll call it out. If it's HTTP transport, it'll be retried. If it's the other ones like COM, or like there's some other error codes that get thrown in there, those are for actionable information, to where you would want to look up that device, go get click to run logs. On your first view, I'd love to help you through that on the WinAdmins site as well, to kind of step through and help everybody start getting used to this new admin center and the new process.
Matt, do you know what the retry interval is if it does fail for HTTP?
For HTTP, it's on the updates task. So, however often, I think it's a scheduled task on the device. It's multiple times a day though.
Okay.
It's called updates 2.0 or updates something like that. I'd have to look up the scheduled task, but it's consistent on multiple times per day.
I have one for you, Matt, or whoever wants to answer. Recently, a lot of posts on Twitter and probably some on Microsoft about the whole Excel v4 macro thing. It looks like that's getting exploited more, which I saw as a policy that we can configure in many ways through servicing or traditional ways as well. Is that data available anywhere? Because the first thing people ask before we turn that off is, well, do we use it? And I'm pretty sure we don't use Excel v4 macros anywhere, but who knows? Is that data anywhere? I know it's not really an Excel specific question, but just any telemetry data. Are we looking to expose that anywhere so we can make some more intelligent decisions around things that we can turn off that really shouldn't exist anymore?
I am not the best Excel person. I think the Martin, do you have an idea on that? Or I mean, if I can't get it, send me an email directly with it, and we'll just loop in the Excel program managers and figure out what they're going to do.
It's really just about anything. Like, is this? It could be access or Outlook. If the best practice in Outlook is to turn off, HTML email, or whatever it is. Just curious if any of that data is going to start coming back.
What I would do is our security baselines updated all the time. So if there's new security baselines, in one really easy trick to look at what the security baselines are is to log into the admin center, go to Office Cloud Policy Service, and then filter it for security baseline, and you'll see all of the latest in there. But if there's like a notification that's coming out, I know not every, I mean, it's really common based on the numbers that we have on our side, how many admins are reading message center posts, because you guys are inundated with them all the time. But if anything, we try to send stuff out through message center if it's going to impact you.
I would like to cover a question. So Eric already responded to the question if enabling the monthly enterprise channel will actually reinstall Office on the devices. Eric responded, but I kind of wanted to put it front and center. Every time the click-to-run engine is changing something on the device and you're not running the setup.exe. So you're not starting an activity with the setup.exe, but the click-to-run engine does an activity based on it needs to switch a channel, or it needs to go from a later version to the most current version, or it has to perform a downgrade. So everything where you're not starting with setup/configure and then an XML file, is a delta operation. So update, channel switch, downgrade, all these scenarios is always that the engine checks what is on the box, what is my target, what is the difference, get this difference from the available source, and then apply it to the box. That's air quote as simple as the system works. It could be a channel change, can be a downgrade or an upgrade. It's checking the difference between where am I and where should I be. Pull the difference, pull it down onto the box, extract, apply, and we are done. So all these scenarios that we talked about, channel change, update, downgrade, are not an uninstall, reinstall.
Awesome, thanks. So it looks like Eric just wrapped up the last two questions that were in the chat that I had known of, and we're just past the hour now. So I think we're probably good to wrap it up. From my point of view, I think things went well. Again, this will be available on our website hopefully in the next few days. Sometimes it takes me a few days just to do the editing. Is there anything you want to end with, Matt, or any of the Rangers before we let everybody go?
No, that's it. Thank you for coming, and please reach out on WinAdmins if you need any help, any concerns. The main places I'm at is Intune Config Manager and M365 on-prem, but you can find me, Matt Filipenko, on there. Martin's on there as well, Martin Microsoft. And yeah, hit us up. We'll jump in and help you out with whatever we can.
Cool. Thanks, guys, and thanks everyone again for joining. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.